Farlost, created by John Miro.
29. Rosa Coro winced and pulled her earbud out. Lou could hear Dina Rodriguez's scream of warning on the radio from her station.
"Ships all around in some kind of debris field. Are you seeing this, CNC?"
She tapped into the line, waving Okoro to stand down. "We see it, pilot," Lou told Dina, her tone a cold splash of water sent via radio frequency. Dina's voice died out.
"Yes, Commander," the pilot replied a moment later, calmer now.
Good, Lou thought. Panic killed people. "Keep your team on mission, Dina," Lou said, her tone reassuring now. "Good job restoring power. Finish up your patch job and bring your boys home." She killed the circuit without waiting for an answer. Rose smiled over to her, relief showing on her face. Lou half smiled back. Right then, she was grateful no one could hear her inner voice, which right then sounded a lot like she had in 10th grade, the time Junior Murdoch had dropped a cricket down the back of her dress. She swiped through camera feeds, staring incredulously at the many, many ships. The big one, down closer to the spiky planetoid, called to her imagination, with its smooth lines and waves, its whites and silvers and eerie glows. It was massive, kilometers long and wide, and crafted like art. Alien art. She shook her head and exploded the image of the closest craft to fill her screen, the long-lost Betty McKenna, frozen mid-turn, atmosphere bleeding from her side, an entire segment on the topside torn away. But still crude, she thought in amazement. After 100 years, the Betty McKenna was still crude and flying. A red square flashed once on the outskirts of the image. A tag from Stuart Beecham's monitor appeared. "If that old rust bucket is still flying," he shouted over his shoulder, "then we've got a shot too, right?" "Right?" "Is it still flying?" Rose asked. Everyone looked at her. Rose sent each screen a picture of deadly metal fragments frozen on their way to the Betty McKenna. "If we're looking at a freeze frame, how do we know they survived that?" "The nav officer's right," Lou said. "We need to know everything we can about the environment, including whatever shitstorm we've landed in the middle of." "How, Commander?" Rose asked. "Sensors are all flatlined in this bubble." Lou swiveled to face the doctor. "Your light show kept us alive, Beecham, but we need more than this freeze frame." A creak from the duty compartment drew everyone's eyes. Burkov hovered silently in the door, his face haunted, eyes sunken, broken. She felt no threat and no pity for the man. She turned back to the image of the century-old ship, torn between horror and curiosity. It was obviously still manned, at least as recently as a half an hour before. Beecham was slapping at his screens again. "We have to see, Beecham." "I get it, okay? Just shut the fuck, Beecham!" The warning came from Nav Officer Okoro. Lou kept the surprise and gratitude off her face. The defense was hardly needed, but the gesture from the ordinarily quiet girl warmed her. Quickly remembering that she was responsible for their lives tempered that warmth. The doctor's eyes darted to hers and his face twisted with some emotion. Was that embarrassment, Lou thought? It just might be. "Just give me a minute here." He flipped his eyes back to his work. "Sorry, Commander." Stan was hovering beside Lou's station now. He gets pissy when he has to admit he doesn't know all the answers. Stan kicked off back towards Beecham's station. Lou had a harder time keeping her grin off her face this time, watching Stan go. Worth his weight in gold, she thought again. Now Beecham slammed a fist into one of his screens and looked at her angrily, nostrils flaring. As she watched, bracing herself for another petulant male response, the doctor screwed up his face and then pushed out a deep breath. "It's Lou, right?" Lou raised an eyebrow and cooled her voice. She had experience in healing crew who didn't respect her authority. "Excuse me, Doctor." Beecham sighed. "I'm the smartest person on this ship. Can we get that out of the way?" He looked around. "I can analyze, tear down, and innovate faster than anyone on the planet." He looked at the screen and a short laugh escaped. "Well, our planet.
But what to do with the tech I come up with? How should it be used? I never cared. Beecham looked back at her. You kept us alive. You know what you're doing. I don't want to die. I don't want any of us to. Rose and Stan had grown quiet. Lou saw Rose's eyes grow wide while Stan beamed at his mentor. Look. His face screwed up again. He took another cleansing breath. Beecham's entire body was cramping up with the effort of expressing himself. I don't know how to keep that shit from... I can't keep us safe. I can do the tech, but we need you to keep us safe. Oh, I'm no good at this. He licked his lips, a clear twitch of worry. I'm sorry for being me. Tell me what you need, and just call me Stuart when you need my attention fast, okay? Lou was surprised. How much must it cost such an arrogant man to talk like that? Near-death experience had revealed a vein of self-awareness in Stuart Beecham she'd never guessed at. Buried and stagnant, but it was there. Likely some sociopathy too, for sure, but Beecham was really trying to reach out. She wondered if Beecham had even known he'd had it in him. Just don't call me Stuart unless we're about to die, okay? Lou stifled a laugh. That wouldn't do in the face of Beecham's vulnerability. She still didn't like him, but she understood him better. That was enough for now. You have a deal, Dr. Beecham. Now tell me what you know about... She waved her hands at the monitors. Okay, he said, turning back to his shoulders back and head high again, on task. We're moving, over 1,000 clicks an hour, but rapidly losing speed. That big spiky thing behind us is actually below us. It has a huge gravity well. It's also got something else going on, a weird broad-spectrum effect. He splayed his fingers on one screen, and the image exploded. Lou saw ships blossom, then disappear off the sides of the screen. Other, further away ships appeared, looking even more broken. Beecham exploded the image again, and yet more ships appeared, these ones looking, she supposed, dusty was the right word. He exploded the image, again. Vaguely ship-like swirls appeared. They're disintegrating. That big planetoid sucks things down, and gravity, pressure, and some other effects I haven't nailed down are breaking down matter. Far finer grain than just gravity and pressure. He pointed at the screen. There's some kind of wind or current inside the gravity well that keeps some ships from falling this far, but whatever does gets... I don't know. Broken apart at the subatomic level? Eaten, maybe? And we're falling, Rosa Coro whispered. Beecham's eyes stayed on Lou. Right now, we're losing momentum. Falling comes next. What can we do about it? Lou asked. About the falling? Beecham ran the knuckle on his thumb over his nose. We don't have the thrust to do anything about it. We've got a few hours before we start falling. I'll have to figure... He looked up and met Lou's eyes. We'll have to figure something else out. Lou faced her monitor and the image of the Betty McKenna. We need to know a lot more, Beecham. We need to find out if there are survivors on that ship and if they can help us. We make the field selectively porous, Stan said in a measured tone, speaking for Beecham's benefit. Let in the spectra we have equipment to measure and maybe get out a call for help. Beecham nodded. Our best chance is getting help from them, Lou said, tapping the image and gesturing to send it to everyone else's screen. I want radio, visual, electromagnetic, Lou called out. Beecham's face became guarded, almost sneering again. He opened his mouth, and she cut him off. You don't know what's safe to let in, I understand. You can think of 1,000,000 hypothetical dangers the rest of us can't. I can see it on your face. If we want to survive, we need that data. Did Lou imagine it, or did Beecham's nod to her carry a new measure of respect? Yeah, we'll be down in that soup for sure if we don't do something now. His eyes flicked away from her, working something through. He nodded again. Glad someone around here has balls, he muttered to no one in particular. Lou was stunned. Was that a compliment? His hands rattled across both his screens. Stan, check my math. The two men barked numbers and terms back and forth. Lou and the others waited silently. Ready here, Beecham said and stared at his assistant. After a moment, Stan whistled. Numbers are good. You can Swiss cheese that field of yours quite a bit, and it will still hold. Lou waited until she realized everyone's eyes were on her. Everything was her call now. Do it, Beecham. The lights dimmed, and the world outside jumped, like God had skipped the movie forward. Motion alarms screamed as the ship's tumbling was recognized. She tapped them off, studied the chain of red boxes filling her screens. No new damage reports, just wonky sensor readings as HHL realized it was in a new neighborhood. LiDAR results pinged onto her screen. Something hit the hull. No, not the hull, but a shutter passed through it. Still no damage reports, and Lou realized the ship was still protected from physical damage by Beecham's light show. Just sound waves, Stan called out. Well, I say just, but the force field is actually dissipating some seriously explosive force. We should be dead. Despite the lack of gravity, Lou suddenly fought down her stomach. She focused on her goal. The Betty McKenna was almost 100 miles away now. She dragged her fingers over to capture a frame and exploded. The ship still had power and lights. I'm picking up radio, Rose shouted, her jaw set, fingers working. Not the normal frequencies. Splash from a tight beam. She smiled at Lou. In English. Lou shook her head, incredulous, then caught herself and put her surprise away. Let's hear it. No transmission yet, but set us up for it. Rose funneled the signal through the PA system. So we break free, they all heard a strange voice say. With just a few hours of breathable air, battery power, and chem thrusters. The voice was a little deeper than it should be, not computer-generated, but strange. There were little clicks that went along with the words, accentuating them. Lou felt a chill slide up and down her spine. The voice wasn't human. Holy fucking shit, Beecham breathed. Lou shushed him. Another voice. Look on the bright side. That arrival will bring the guard. This voice was like a kid sucking wind from a helium balloon at a birthday party. There was no joking in the words. They were heartfelt and sad. Lou stared at Rose and Stan and Beecham, all of them suddenly struck speechless, realizing the same thing with the same shock. Alien voices. They were alien voices.
Farlost. Music by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. Learn more at servingworlds.com.
Hi, this is John Miro, your author, narrator, and creator. This month, Farlost is brought to you by Patreon backers like you and executive producer Tom Phoenix. Please consider becoming my patron at patreon.com, that's patreon.com/servingworlds. Patronage starts at 25 cents a cliffhanger or $1 a month. Thank you for your support.